I never knew a child could heal my heart. Her plea crushed me, and I made a promise. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with despair. I stood in the hallway, the walls closing in, the world moving too fast. My heart felt like a stone, heavy and cold. I glanced at my phone. A picture of her green back. Her bright eyes, a spark in a dim room. But that day was different. It started like any other, but whispers danced around me, soft murmurs behind closed doors, the kind that sets your spine on edge. They were talking about her. My sweet Emma. She's fading, I overheard. It stuck to my skin like syrup, sticky and suffocating. I could hardly breathe. I rushed to the room, my hands trembling, palms slick with sweat. She lay there, fragile and delicate. The way her little frame clung to the sheets, it threatened to shatter my heart. I reached for her hand. It was cold, clammy against my own. "Daddy, I'm scared," she whispered. Those words sliced through me like a knife. Tears poured in my eyes, blurring the room. I could barely force the words out. "I'm here, Emma. I'm right here." I wanted to wrap her in a bubble, shield her from the world, from pain. But I knew I couldn't. The doctors had spoken in hushed voices, their faces drawn tight with worry. I heard the phrase incurable slip through their lips. It poisoned the air, heavy and acrid. She looked up at me, innocence shining through the dread. "Promise you won't let me go." That simple request tore through me, so raw and real. A promise burned in my heart, and I knew I had to do something. What could I do? I was just a man. But now I was a father too, and that meant everything. Suddenly, a wild idea sprang to life. The stories I'd heard about the mysterious healer, the one rumored to live on the fringes of the city. "They say she can work miracles," my neighbor had whispered, her eyes wide with desperation. I could feel the heat rising in me, the hope battling against despair. Could she save Emma? Each heartbeat grew louder in my ears, drumming a rhythm of uncertainty. I had to find out, to take that leap. But what if it didn't work? What if I failed her? A lump formed in my throat, choking me, but I had no choice. "I promise, Emma. I'll find a way," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I clenched her hand tightly, the warmth melting into me, igniting a spark of determination. But as I met her hopeful gaze, a shadow crossed my heart. What would it cost? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The street outside felt unfamiliar as I stepped into the fading light, the sun dipping low on the horizon, casting long shadows that danced against the pavement. Each step was heavy with the weight of my promise to Emma, the memory of her fragile smile pushing me forward. Determination surged through me, but it was quickly chased away by the gnawing fear that I wouldn't find the healer in time. I wandered through the city, the noise of honking horns and chattering pedestrians feeling like a distant echo. The healer's name had been whispered in secret, the place of her dwelling shrouded in shadow, but I held on to the flicker of hope that one of the locals might guide me. "Excuse me," I approached an older gentleman sitting on a bench, his eyes lined with age and wisdom. "I'm looking for the healer, the one everyone talks about. Do you know where I can find her?" His gaze met mine, riddled with doubt. "Many seek what they cannot understand." "What's your purpose, my daughter?" The words caught in my throat. She's sick. "I'll do anything to help her, I swear." His expression softened, and he sighed. "You'll risk more than you know." The path to her isn't easy, and the price you pay may be more than you're willing to give. But I was willing. The stakes were too high. I needed to believe in the improbable, to cling to the razor-thin thread of possibility. Please, just tell me, I urged. With a regretful nod, he offered directions that felt like a riddle wrapped in an enigma. 4 blocks down, take a left where the old lamps flicker. You'll know you're near when you hear the laughter of children. She lives amongst them. I thanked him and hurried off, my heart hammering in my chest. As I navigated through the streets, I thought of Emma, how her laughter once echoed through our home like music. The thought fueled my desperation, the love for her radiating through me like a beacon. After what felt like an eternity, I reached a quiet clearing, a small garden populated with wildflowers bending gently in the breeze. The laughter of children rang out, pure and joyous, obliterating the darkness that had clung to my mind for too long. I felt a flicker of hope shimmer within me as I stepped forward, apprehension dancing along my spine, but as I moved deeper into the garden, my heart sank. The children played, their energy palpable, but no one took notice of the woman at the center, her back turned to me, hidden beneath a canopy of sunlight filtering through the trees. She sat on a bench, her fingers deftly weaving colorful threads into a tapestry that shimmered with life. Excuse me. My voice trembled, splintering the fragile air. She turned slowly, revealing a face weathered with experience yet holding an unexplainable kindness. You seek help. It wasn't a question, it was a declaration, as if she had divined the truth from the very fabric of my soul. I am why, daughter, I stammered, feeling vulnerable under her steady gaze. She's sick. I need your help. A shadow flickered across her features, her eyes darkening momentarily. Do you know the cost? I don't care. I exclaimed, my intensity surprising even me. I would give anything for her life. I promise, you'll pay whatever it is. She studied me in silence, and for a moment, the world fell away, the laughter of the children becoming a dim echo. Anything, you say? Her voice was soft yet commanding, draping over the moment like a thick blanket. Nods escaped my lips, desperate and fervent. Yes, anything. With that, she stood, the energy shifting in the air, electric and alive. Very well. But remember, nothing comes without a price. Your vow must be made in blood, and the bond of love can bring both salvation and despair. Before I could dwell on her cryptic words, a shrill laugh rang out, pulling my focus away from her ominous warning. A boy, no older than 5, darted past me, his laughter filling the garden with joy. A fleeting smile crossed my face until the laughter morphed into a haunting echo, reminding me that such joy felt like a wish too far from reach. Wait. I called out, my heart racing. Is there a way to heal her, to save her? The healer's gaze softened, a hint of empathy weaving through her features. Healing requires more than desire, it asks for sacrifice. Are you prepared to face the consequences? I swallowed hard, my throat dry as fear clashed with hope. I am. Her lips curled into a knowing smile, and for a fleeting second, I thought I could see a flicker of understanding, a glimmer of faith in my ability. But it quickly disappeared, replaced by a knowing wait. Then come, and let us prepare. As she moved deeper into the garden, I followed, trepidation brewing in my chest. With every step, I felt the threads of my old life unraveling at the seams. The fabric of who I once was slowly replaced by something else, an unsettling resolve. But as we ventured further, the sounds of laughter faded, muffled by an impending darkness. My heart raced as the healer turned to look back at me, her expression unreadable. Understand this, my dear father, once you begin this journey, there is no turning back. The choice loomed before me, and as I battled my inner demons, a chilling realization hit me. What if the cost of saving Emma took me down a path far darker than I ever anticipated? With determination hardening in my gut, I pushed forward, just a heartbeat away from a revelation I couldn't yet fathom. What was I about to unleash? And if I did, would it even heal her or shatter everything we held dear? The air grew thicker as I stepped deeper into the garden, each vibrant blossom now a stark contrast to the weight of my decision. The healer moved with purpose, and I stayed close behind, my apprehension clawing at my insides. Shadows stretched longer, swirling around us, and the laughter of the children was nothing more than a ghost rattling in the corners of my mind. Will she be okay? My voice betrayed me, cracking under the weight of hope and fear. The healer paused and looked over her shoulder, her eyes piercing through the dimness that began to settle. Hope is a fragile thing, she replied enigmatically. But it is also a wellspring of strength. We continued walking, the garden morphing from a sanctuary of laughter into a place where echoes of fear loomed large. Each step sent shivers racing down my spine as the world outside faded into insignificance. Moments passed, but I kept my heart tethered to the thought of Emma. Pictures flooded my mind, her small hands clutching her favorite doll, the way her laughter would dance through our small home. The image of her pale face from earlier, shadows beneath her eyes, clawed at my chest. I felt an urgent plea rising within me that made it hard to breathe. The healer stopped abruptly at a decrepit wooden door nestled among the vines. Tall and twisted, it looked as if the shadows had kissed it for too long. "This is where the journey begins," she said. Each word hung heavily between us, a promise and a threat interwoven. "What do I have to do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Patch your heart with your fears," she instructed, "and summon the darkness that lurks within. Only through your deepest anguish can we reach the light." Her words resonated in my bones, though they did little to ease my apprehension. She stepped forward and gestured for me to follow. As I crossed the threshold, a chill swept through me, whispering remnants of forgotten pain. Instead of a garden, I found myself in a dimly lit room filled with bizarre trinkets, the air thick with an earthy scent that enveloped me. Framed photographs adorned the walls, showing children of varied ages smiling brightly amidst vibrant backdrops, each a reminder of love and loss intertwined. "Why are there so many?" I asked, studying the faces. She approached the walls with deep reverence. Each child here held the promise of healing. Some were saved, and others, well, they were not. Her voice grew solemn, and I felt the weight of unspoken stories in the room. I stepped closer, examining a picture of a little girl, her eyes sparkling with mischief. A depth of sorrow welled within me, as I thought about Emma. What price did their parents pay? Some paid in love, others in grief. Her eyes glimmered with a weight of knowledge that threatened to overwhelm me. "Just remember, nothing is as straightforward as it seems, and every light casts a shadow." "What are you saying?" My heart raced harder now, overwhelmed with discomfort and dread. "All sacrifices come with their burdens," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "You must be prepared to deal with whatever darkness arises from this sacrifice." A chill swept over me, and I felt my resolve waver. What if this journey led to something I couldn't face? The idea of collapsing in despair terrified me. Yet the image of Emma's smiling face right before the illness took hold grounded me. I steeled myself for what lay ahead. "I can do this," I whispered, even as my doubt echoed louder. "Good," she said, her voice a thin veil of assurance. "Now, your promise must be made. Take a moment to recollect what you truly wish to protect." I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and envisioned Emma. The memory swelled within me, the warmth of her tiny frame wrapped in my arms flooded my senses. "I promise," I murmured. "I would do anything to save her." The healer's expression shifted, a bittersweet smile brushing her lips. "Very well, let us begin." She turned and moved to a small table, adorned with gilded artifacts and blankets woven from the kindness of strangers. I felt a notion of hope flicker, yet an ominous shadow lurked behind it, whispering warnings. In that moment, another child burst through the door, still a small figure, but this one looked much older, more vulnerable. "Help," she gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I need to find my brother. Please." The girl crumpled to the floor, sobbing, and my heart cracked open at the sound of her grief. It was an unexpected plea that resonated, striking a chord deep within me. Here I was, on the brink of making a life-altering choice, and this child needed my help. The healer turned from her table, her expression darkening. Know that pain is contagious, she said, her voice firm. You must prioritize, for you cannot save everyone, but the girl's heart-wrenching cries shattered something in me. Emma's face swelled with the image of the pleading child, both were trapped in a cruel fate. I can't just turn my back on her, I exclaimed, desperation clouding my judgment. Remember your promise, Father, the healer warned. Every choice echoes through time, caught between duty and compassion. I felt the threads of my life intertwining in a way that terrified me. I looked down at the weeping girl, and as I made my decision, my heart split open, revealing an irrevocable truth. I could save one, but in the clash of love and sacrifice, who would I lose? The air thickened, time spiraled, and a chilling wave of realization washed over me. I had not only ventured into the depths of sacrifice but into something far more complex than healing, facing the unfathomable sorrow that accompanied true love. As the shadows danced around me, I felt the choice pulse through my veins, heavier with each beat. What consequence awaited on the path I could no longer escape? That question would haunt me, pulling tighter with each breath. I felt the room constrict as the girl's sobs resonated like a haunting melody that echoed in my ears. My heart raced between two words, the desperate plea for help and the promise I had made to save my own child. Staring at the girl, I could see a reflection of Emma in her tear-streaked face, innocent and desperate, and something shifted within me, igniting a flicker of resolve. No, I whispered, talking to myself in a low, haggard breath. I can help her. I have to. The healer's shadow loomed beside me, grounding my spiraling thoughts. It's a dangerous road when one sacrifices their heart without reckoning the consequences. What will you choose? I looked down at the girl. What's your name? Lila, she sniffled, struggling to catch her breath. My brother, please, you have to help me find him. I thought of Emma, who needed me just as desperately now, and the anguish in Lila's voice pulled at me. I could feel the weight of my choice pressing down with relentless pressure. It wasn't just about saving one child anymore. It was a recognition that love expands in the face of pain, threading connections that echoed beyond the realm of duty. Tell me where you last saw him, I urged, kneeling beside her. He'll help you. But your daughter, she murmured, her voice trembling with apprehension, as that flicker of desperation ignited in her eyes anew. That doesn't matter right now. Just tell me where he is. Okay, she said, her breath hitching with the effort of drawing herself back from the brink of despair. We were playing in the town square, and he said he would go to the old oak tree. He thought he could climb it, but he never came back, and I was so scared. An unruly wave of memories crashed over me, Emma running through the park, her laughter soaring through the air. The haunting realization draped itself over my shoulders as heavy as a shroud. I straightened up, locking eyes with the healer. I can't abandon her, I said, my voice resolute despite the turmoil threatening to engulf me. If I could save just one, the healer sighed, the flicker of interest in her eyes now replaced with a solemn weight. You believe you can defy fate. But remember, every action has ripples. For every step you take towards Lila, you may step away from Emma. And once you start, there's no turning back. In that moment, I felt an uneasy stirring, the price of compassion loomed tall above me, and I struggled against the shadow of guilt creeping into my heart. Still, the clarity of purpose surged within me. I had already lost Emma to her illness, and I could not turn my back on another child, simply because times were difficult. Let's go, Lila, I said, reaching out to help her up. We will find your brother. The flickering light in the room dimmed as I took a step forward, already tasting the bitterness of my promise. Lila clutched my hand tightly, her small fingers grounding me amidst the chaos swirling around us. She looked up at me, eyes searching for assurance that I could not safely give. But what if he's not? Her voice faltered, the question hanging heavy in the air. I wanted to reassure her, to fill the void of her fear with the bravado of hope. He is, I said, trying to inject a strength into my voice I didn't feel. People can surprise us in ways we never expect. We rushed out of the room, the air cooling around us as we stepped back into the garden, once vibrant but now blurred by what lay before us. The path twisted and turned like our emotions, but Lila pressed on, the lantern of her spirit burning bright against the dimness of uncertainty. As we reached the entrance of the garden, cloaked in shadows, I was met with an odd stillness. There was no laughter, no rustling of leaves, and for just a heartbeat, the world outside felt strangely suspended. Lila glanced around nervously, her grip tightening around my hand as if sensing an invisible weight pressing down on us. "Stay close to me," I said, feeling the heating pulse of dread bouncing between us. As we rounded a corner, I gasped. The old oak tree stood in the distance, gnarled branches stretching upward like skeletal fingers. A glint of sunlight caught something trapped in its roots. Lila released her hold on me and took off running, her small figure darting ahead, leaving me standing dumbfounded as a growing storm of apprehension brewed within. "Wait!" I shouted, but she was already halfway there, her heart leading her without hesitation. Then, a voice pierced through the web of silence, whispering through the trees. "Lila," my heart sank. It was unmistakable, the sound of a child broken by despair, trembling with the weight of untold stories. Familiar to my ears. "Lila, is that you?" Lila's figure halted dead in its tracks, eyes widening as she turned toward the call. My breath caught, a challenging wave of anxiety washing over me as I fought an impulse to run to her, to shield her from whatever truths were rooted beneath that ancient tree. But woven through that fear was another, far more powerful than I could have anticipated. The truth of my own heart, and then, against the backdrop of shocking revelations, a series of emotional echoes resonated and twisted tighter in my chest. The shadow of fate loomed overhead, each step I took resonating softly, but deep within me, something was buried, a truth clawing its way to the surface. In that instant, I realized this journey was far from over. And as the revelation struck like a bolt of lightning through my veins, I understood that in saving one life, another could be lost. My heart felt torn and heavy, caught in a tempest of hope and despair. I reached for Lila, stifling the rising tide of dread that threatened to overwhelm me. I could not help but wonder what awaited us beneath the boughs of that ancient tree. And more poignantly, who else might be waiting to be saved? The air was thick with unspoken fears as I approached the old oak tree, its mighty trunk a sentinel over secrets long buried. My heart raced as I clutched the small bundle of hope that was Lila beside me, the weight of her soul pressing against my own chest like lead. I could see her eyes searching, longing for any sign of her brother, but all I could offer was the resonance of my own turmoil echoing within. "Stay close," I murmured again, my voice barely above a whisper. The distant sound of another child's voice felt ominous. I had no idea what awaited us under those gnarled branches, what nightmare or miracle could lie hidden in its roots. "Rory!" Lila cried out, taking a tentative step forward. Hope flickered in her voice against the backdrop of dread that clouded my thoughts, but I held back, fighting the urge to rush to her side. I watched her, transfixed by the way she searched for a familiar face in the shadows, the resilience of a child standing firm against the tremors of uncertainty. In that moment, I could no longer trace the delicate lines of my own heart's grief. They blurred, softened by Lila's plaintive call as it hung heavy in the air, weaving a tapestry of connection between our shared sorrows. My mind drifted to Emma, the child who still needed me, who I had left alone and terrified just moments ago, but as I stood there, fear clenching my guts, the old tree seemed alive, vibrating underfoot, like millions of small whispers beckoning. I wanted to reach out, to fill the void of dread that spread like darkness between us, but fear anchored me in place while Lila surged forward. "Rory!" She cried again, desperation dripping from every syllable, and then, just like that, a figure emerged from the shadows beneath the branches. My breath hitched, my heart lurching as I watched a little boy step cautiously into the light. He was small, perhaps a year older than Lila, tousled hair framing a face that bore the smudges of adventure. But the moment I saw his eyes wide, showing the frightful glaze of a child lost, my heart plummeted. "Lila?" he asked, his voice trembling, but infused with the flickers of recognition that illuminated the moment. Without a second thought, Lila dashed forward, throwing herself at her brother. They collapsed into a tangle of arms and legs, a whirlwind of joy and relief that threatened to drown out my own racing thoughts. Yet there I stood, a spectator to something I yearned to be a part of but also feared I would shatter with my mere presence. The darkness that had once enveloped the scene began to break as the siblings squeezed each other. Lila's words, "I thought I lost you," were drowned out by Rory's reassurances. In their embrace, a light began to flicker, giving rise to a warmth that cut through the frigid air of despair. Yet as joy sprouted and daisies bloomed in their budding reunion, a shadowed whisper still clung to my spirit. My own child, Emma, was waiting, clinging to life in her own grasp of uncertainty. Each heartbeat echoed with the memory of her small hand cold against mine, her ragged breaths haunting my thoughts. I felt selfish to stand there savoring their joy, when Emma's life teetered on the brink of a decision that quickly loomed like a dark fog. Suddenly, a low voice slithered through the air, sending shivers through my bones. It belonged to the healer, somehow having followed us. A heart divided often finds itself lost in the tangled web of sacrifice. The words hung between us, laden with foreboding and the cold reality of choice. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice rising against the unwavering tide. "Everyone has a tether," she said, her eyes boring into me as if she could see the fracture lines in my soul. "For every bond you forge with another, a part of you is entwined, and when you reach for one, another risks falling into the abyss." I felt the air leave my lungs as I grasped the suffocating weight of her warning. Lila and Rory were rekindling their bond right before my eyes, but the innocence of their reunion only further illuminated the fracture within my own heart, where Emma lay. "Alone and vulnerable, please," Rory shouted, his voice slicing through my turmoil as he turned towards me, eyes wide with wonder. "You're the lady who helped Lila. Are you going to take us home now?" But Lila's eyes shifted upward, searching me for answers. In that moment, I grappled with a revelation that surged through me like wildfire. What would it mean for them to return to safety, while I risked my own child's fate for their happiness? Suddenly, the serene visage of the oak tree seemed ominously aware of my turmoil. Shadows engulfed the space around me, and I felt an eerie chill as realization gripped my throat. It was not just a matter of choice, this was a reckoning. The lives of 3 children lay like mismatched puzzle pieces in my hands, waiting for me to assemble a picture from their chaos. My blood ran cold as I pondered the true cost of emotional entanglement, and then a scream cut through the air, one that felt achingly familiar. It emanated from within the woods, raw and discordant, wrapping around my heart like a noose. I turned, paralyzed with fear, recognizing that cry immediately as Emma's voice unleashed into the wind a haunting call that echoed through the branches of the old oak like a death knell. "Emma." The name ripped itself from my throat as if conjured by the fear of losing her entirely. In that instant, horror struck, churning me into a whirlwind of dread. I was faced with the unavoidable truth that I could stay and witness the beauty of this reunion unfold, but the price would be the very essence of my own flesh and blood. Or I could step back into the shadows of what had once been my life, risking everything for the fleeting chance to save my daughter from the darkness that threatened to consume her entirely. I stood frozen, my heart rocked between two worlds, the echoes of love and loss crashing like waves against the fragile shoreline of my resolve. Time suspended, the brothers and sisters intertwined in a moment of joy, while in the distance, Emma's faint, desperate sobs clawed at me, mixing with the shadows of fate clawing from every angle. This was a choice I could not face lightly, one that reverberated through the depths of my core. And as the forest seemed to draw closer, I felt like the strands of connection that bound us were tightening, holding me in a grasp that threatened to unravel the very fabric of my being. "Emma!" I shouted again, my voice raw with desperation. I took a step back, then another, the truth coiling like a snake around me. Time was slipping away, and I was losing everything. In that harrowing instant, I realized my journey to save one might just cost me the other. Lila and Rory's reunion blossomed around me like fragile petals in the soft glow of twilight, but even their laughter felt like shards of glass pressing against my heart. I wanted to join them, wanted to bask in their hope, yet knowing Emma's cries still echoed through the trees held me hostage at the edge of their joy. "Please, let's go to her. Lila's voice sliced through my spiraling fears, the innocence in her eyes demanding a response that I knew I couldn't grant without unraveling what remained of my spirit. But just as Rory's delight started a cascade of smiles, Lila's face twisted with uncertainty, a reflection of the chaos swirling inside me. The illusion of safety in their happiness began to falter, and dread coiled back into my heart. "Where's Emma?" Rory asked, and his honest gaze forced me to confront the heartbreak lurking behind my silence. I opened my mouth to speak but found no words, my throat dry and tight. She's nearby. I promise you'll find her. You'll bring her back," I stammered, the promise tearing at my core. The weight of my words hung heavy in the air, tainted by uncertainty and stripped of conviction, but even as I spoke, I felt the broken pieces of my resolve scatter. I couldn't bring comfort to myself, let alone these two children whose eyes mirrored the hope I couldn't hold onto for my own. With every heartbeat, Emma's distant cries grew more frantic, echoing through the forest, reverberating through the very marrow of my bones. "Oh, you hear that?" I breathed, placing my hand on my chest, feeling the thudding rhythm of my pulse, a frantic metronome marking time against the gathering shadows. "We have to go now." "Stay close," I instructed, attempting to project strength I didn't feel. Lila nodded, her grip tightening around Rory's hand, their bond reverberating in stark contrast to my solitary fear. As we pressed deeper into the woods, the screaming became a chorus of anguish, filling the silences between the trees that seemed to close in around us. Each call made my heart quicken further, a reminder of the purpose that drove me onward, yet despair clung to the frayed edges of my mind like the thick fog enveloping the forest. Then, without warning, the ground beneath us trembled. Not in the sense of an earthquake, but the resonance of something powerful shifting, as if the very forest were alive, compelled to respond to my fear. I glanced back at Lila and Rory, who seemed momentarily frozen, wrapped in a world of their own, a fleeting sanctuary against the storm swirling in my heart. "Keep your eyes on me," I urged, sensing an unseen veil straining against us, the shadows elongated and twisted, morphing the landscape into a medley of confusion. "Need you to." A flash of light flickered through the trees, illuminating the path ahead. It was brief, almost imperceptible, but something deep inside me shimmered at the sight. Hope surged through my veins for one heart-stopping moment, as if stars had aligned just for us. Could it be that I was leading them to a miracle? "Did you see that?" Lila whispered, her eyes wide with awe, the frisson of magic dancing between us. "It has to be a way out," Rory echoed, eyes sparkling with delight. Yet the pulsing resonance of Emma's screams echoed back in roaring contrast, reminding me that the light was a tantalizing distraction from the shadows that nipped at my heels. I swallowed hard, urging myself forward despite the growing trepidation. As we drew closer to the source of the cries, the air thickened with an unnatural stillness. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, propelling me onward even as doubts crept at my edges like vines threatening to wrap around my ankles. Then we stumbled into a clearing, the sight of a bright flicker lantern tied to the gnarled roots of another grand oak cast a warm glow against the encroaching darkness. And just beyond it, a figure hunched over, still and silent. "Emma!" I cried out, my voice fragile yet unwavering, hope surging as I took a step towards the apparition, but as I approached, the figure turned, revealing a face I couldn't recognize, twisted in anguish. It was not my daughter. I felt the air leave my lungs, in unsettling clarity, recognizing that this was not the salvation I had sought. "Help her!" A new voice wailed, and I spun around, finding Lila and Rory staring in horror, the ethereal light revealing a ghastly truth. Where I sought to save one child, another, the source of the screams, now dangled dangerously close to the precipice of fate. I reached out, my heart pounding against my ribcage as I witnessed the horror take form, shadows undulating and rising, entwined with fear, threatening to devour the light. These were echoes of lost children, bittersweet remnants woven into this place. The heart-wrenching realization crashed over me. They were tethered to the anguish I had shrugged off in a moment of ignorance, every life, a thread, and with each thread I pulled, I risked unraveling the fabric of what little hope remained for my Emma. No. I gasped, recoiling as the realization settled deep in my gut, dimming the flicker of any promise I had once tried to make. That scream belonged to someone lost, like a phantom grasping for salvation. "Don't leave me." Lila's voice trembled, her fingers gripping my arm. "We can help them, can't we?" But I was paralyzed, my mind spinning and my heart torn. Did helping one mean losing another? Losing Emma? As the ghastly face of sorrow reflected the anguish deeper than any I had witnessed before, I was left standing at a precipice, spiraling into the chaos I feared yet yearned to escape. "Please, let's go," I urged, sensing the darkness closing in around us, the faces of the lost pressing in just beyond the veil. But as I turned back toward the fading glow, the only flicker of hope amid the gathering shadows, I then heard it once more, Emma's voice, more shrill this time, lost and desperate. "Mommy! Help me, Emma!" I screamed, but the cries were swallowed by the dark, leaving me gasping for breath, teetering at the edge of despair and uncertainty. A promise I had made, never feeling so far from fulfillment. I stood, lost within the moment, anchored by the fear of what lay ahead and the knowledge that time was slipping through my fingers. Here, at the juncture of hope and loss, I faced a new reality. In surrendering to one destiny, I risked damnation for another. The choice weighed heavy, the path ahead obscured, and as shadows swept closer, I felt the disquiet settling like a shroud. If I ventured forth, would I find my enemy heart determined by the cost of another? The words fell from my lips in desperate breaths, each one heavy with the consequences of hope. "He'll find her. He'll save her." But even as I spoke, the laughter of Lila and Rory faded, eclipsed by the grim uncertainty of the moment. My heart rattled beneath the weight of my promise, echoing the haunting cries that lingered in the damp air. As I tightened my grip around Lila and Rory's hands, a flicker of purpose ignited within me, pushing aside the growing dread. The darkness around the clearing seemed to swell and pulse, alive with the suspense of what was yet to come. But that promise, that flicker of hope, whispered of an unseen connection stronger than my fear. "Stay together," I urged, my voice steady despite the tempest within me. And so we began to move, inching toward the sound of Emma's voice, penetrating through the suffocating shadows that sought to claim us. Each step felt heavier than the last, the terrain shifting beneath my feet as if protesting our advance. "Mommy." The call bore a desperate, almost primal note that pushed me forward, conjuring images of my girl, her bright eyes, her smile that could light up the darkest corners of this world. It was the essence of her innocence that fueled me, warding off the encroaching darkness even as it tangled with my fears. As we navigated the twisted paths, I spotted a flicker of light swaying eerily against the backdrop of the towering trees. My heart thudded painfully against my chest as we approached, the golden glow promising a glimmer of safety amidst the gathering storm. The luminescence revealed a small, dilapidated cabin, its windows fogged with despair. The door creaked eerily as I grasped its handle, the sound echoing like a forewarning. Inside, the air was thick, laden with an unnameable sadness. Lila squeezed my arm. "Do you think she's in here?" I nodded, a flicker of hope igniting, dauntless in the face of despair. "Emma." I called again, my voice echoing poignantly within the narrow space, feeling like a plea cast into eternity. In response, a soft rustle resonated from a dim corner. Shadows shifted, and I felt them ripple against my skin, a harsh reminder of the specters that clung to the edges of my vision. And then I saw her, what I thought was Emma, only to realize it was another child, tangled in despair. She looked up, eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. "Help me please," she implored, a reflection of the very fear that knitted tightly in my stomach. "Where's Emma?" I demanded, my pulse quickening as I wrestled with the deepening darkness around us. The new reality of phantom children drew close, straining my resolve as I saw how easily I could lose myself in their plight. But before I could reach for her, a familiar voice sliced through the air with agonizing clarity, piercing through the sorrow that threatened to overwhelm us all. "Mommy. I need you. Help me. Emma." I moved instinctively, drawn toward the call that vibrated through my core. I pushed deeper into the ghostly cabin, leaving behind Lila and Rory, the echoes of their hesitance lost within my singular focus. It was as if the walls themselves were made of despair, each step a struggle against the shadows that threatened to consume me. I stumbled forward, feeling the chilly tendrils wrapping around me, taunting my resolve. Would I forsake the beam of light that was this other girl for the warmth of my own child, Mommy? The plea rang clearer now, urging me faster until I crashed through an open door at the far end of the cabin. The world outside slammed into me, the brightness stacked against the shadows, and then there it was, a vision of solace amidst chaos. Emma, standing on a ledge, framed by the forest, her small body swaying precariously. She was silhouetted against the encroaching darkness with tears streaming down her face. Emma! I screamed, reaching out, every nerve ending alive with panic. In that moment, the world tilted on its axis, the edges of reality blurring into the cacophony of despair and love. "Don't come closer," she cried, terror-laced in her voice, as if she feared I would shatter the delicate tether that held her above the abyss. "You have to save them." "Save who?" I gasped, confusion wrapping around me like a chokehold. "Emma, please. Calm down, I can help you." My voice faltered as dread clawed at my insides, the shadows surrounding us morphing, twisting into a mass of pain and loss. The other child's haunted eyes flickered in my mind before Emma's plea drove me toward her once again. "You don't understand. If you come for me, they'll be lost. Let me save you," I shouted, emotions bursting forth, raw and untamed. Each second stretched painfully as uncertainty gnawed at my resolve, a fragile thread straining against the weight of my love and the despair clinging like mist. I in that heartbeat, the shadows crashed around us, a swirling maelstrom of anguish. It enveloped the cabin, choking out light while pulling me closer to the edge of madness. And yet I felt a surge of hope and urgency amidst the crushing weight. Perhaps there was a way to save us. My heart instinctively knew that the light of my love could illuminate even the deepest darkness, but just as I took a step closer, the ground trembled ominously beneath me. "Mommy!" Emma cried again, that familiar anguish surging through me, threatening to drown what little light remained. The darkness writhed, and I felt its tendrils curl around me as if to pull me into its chaos. Lila and Rory's voices flickered in my mind, remnants of their earlier hope rebounding against my guilt. "We can do this together," I whispered, but the shadows began to close in, their chill seeping into my bones. "Mommy!" Emma wailed, and that agony tore through me. I was left standing at the brink of reality and desperation, where the echoes of lost souls lingered, leaving me with a choice that propelled my spirit to unfathomable heights but threatened everything I held dear. In that heartbeat, as the shadows reached for me, I clung to the piercing cries of my daughter. If I fell into the darkness now, would I ever emerge again? Or would Emma slip forever from my grasp? In a moment fraught with peril, the choice stretched before me, and the weight of all that hung in the balance left me breathless. The ground beneath my feet quaked unsettlingly as Emma's voice echoed with desperation, ricocheting in the hollow expanse surrounding me. I felt every heartbeat resonate, vibrating through the air like a drum heralding impending doom. The shadows, dark and sleek with despair, crept closer, their cold fingers brushing against my skin, threatening to pull me into their agonizing embrace. "Emma, please," I begged, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and determination. "I'll save you. But you have to trust me. Come closer. I promise I won't let you fall." Her eyes glinted, reflecting the mottled light filtering through the grasping darkness that swirled around her like a tempest. "You don't understand. If you try to get to me," all her words dissolved into a choke sob, the weight of so many unshed tears breaking free. "Who?" I pressed, desperation clawing at my throat. "Who will be lost?" A moment of agonizing silence stretched as a flicker of shifting shadows danced ominously around us. I stood there, paralyzed by the magnitude of her words, feeling the world swirling nearby, chaotic and alive with unspoken sorrow. "Mommy!" She cried out again, the piercing edge of her plea cutting through my heart. You must protect them. Please don't let them get taken. Save them. The chilly grip of fear paralyzed me as her words sank deeper, stirring the layers of material beneath my surface. This darkness, pulling at me with familiar hands, beckoned me not just to save my child but to unearth a strength within that I never knew existed. I'll protect everyone. I promise. The shadows thickened, swirling like a liquid nightmare, and the distant cries of lost souls echoed around me, a haunting cacophony threatening to consume my resolve. I sprang into action, shaking off the icy tendrils that sought to entwine me in despair. Lila. Rory. I called out, frantic for their warmth, their presence semi-anchors amidst the storm. The cabin walls reverberated, the dim light casting looming shapes that felt clutching and real. I risked a glance back, my breath hitching at the sight of their wide eyes filled with concern, little universes of hope reflecting uncertainty. Stay together. I urged, casting a desperate glance at the shadows twitching around me, mindful of the toll this journey was taking on my children. We must protect each other. With renewed determination, I turned back to Emma, attempt a soothing offer amidst the chaos. You're strong, Emma. You're the bravest girl I know. Just come down to me. I won't let you go. Her small form trembled. But, Mommy. What if you lose me? You can't save everyone. Then I'll bring you to safety first, I insisted, my heart pounding as I realized I was willing to face the most daunting challenges even if it meant risking the safety of my own soul. I can't lose you, Emma. I won't. In that tenuous moment, her gaze softened slightly, a glint of hope breaking through the despair obscuring her eyes. But before more words could form, the shadows collided ferociously, their growls like wild animals eager to tear through the fabric of our reality. I recognized then that there was more at stake than merely saving my child. It was a battle against the very darkness that sought to devour our joy and light. The ground shuddered again, and Emma wavered, her balance teetering. Mommy. You need to hurry. They are coming. Fear gripped me, tight and unyielding. The shadows morphed into solid figures, lost children pleading with silent eyes, yearning for my attention. I fought against the rising tide of my memories as their stories clawed at my heart, amplifying my torment. I can't save them all. I hissed, grappling with grief as I weighed their fading voices against Emma's undeniable need. A sudden, chilling realization dawned on me. The moment I thought I could conquer this darkness without sacrifice truly was an illusion. I had to confront the reality of what it meant to love fiercely, to protect unconditionally, while navigating through sorrow's battlefield. Emma. I cried again, desperation laced with new understanding. You have to tell me what to do. Lead the way, and I'll follow. Her eyes searched mine, vulnerability dripping her small figure as the shadows closed in, roaring with hunger. The others, they need you, Mommy. We need to make them whole again. Oh. I repeated, confusion intertwining with my apprehensions. And just as the first tendrils of despair struck my spine like icy needles, the world ripped apart, darkness swirling as if time itself was imploding. I shielded my eyes, gasping as an unexpected light surged through the pandemonium, slivers of the past illuminating the shadows with warmth. In that flicker, I glimpsed memories of laughter amidst anguish, glimmers of joy fighting against the tide of sorrow, and the realization struck like thunder, the essence of hope could heal us all, but it came at a cost. As the darkness writhed in protest, the truth rang clear within me, a choice was laid bare. Save Emma and risk the children lost to despair, or sacrifice my heart completely, shattering our innate connection forever to protect the rest. Before my eyes could register the full extent of what lay before me, a choice of love against an onslaught of darkness. The ground cracked beneath me, splitting apart in jagged fury. Emma's terrified scream shattered the air as if the very universe was concluding its haunting tale. In that final fleeting moment before the abyss swallowed us whole, I reached across the chasm, desperately grasping for the light in my daughter's eyes, hoping that whatever lay on the other side wouldn't be lost to the chaos. Trust me. I pleaded. We'll find a way, and then, as the shadows lunged forward, everything faded into obscurity. Desperate flashes of past laughter and joy mingled with the cries of lost children filled the air around us, leaving me standing on the edge of fate, breathless and vulnerable, teetering on the brink of irrevocable choice. The silence crashed down, an oppressive blanket smothering the last embers of hope. I stood on the precipice of despair, peering into the depths of the darkness that swallowed Emma's scream like a furious beast. It was overwhelming, an all-consuming abyss that clawed at the very fabric of my being. My heart raced, filled with a tempest of love and fear, but in the depth of that chaos, I felt something stirring, a flicker of resilience buried deep within. The ground trembled beneath me, the crack widening as shadows darted at the edges of my vision like frantic whispers beckoning me toward their cold embrace. I clenched my fist, feeling the remnants of Emma's warmth still imprinted in my memory. "No, I won't let you take her," I shouted into the dark, forcing my voice to rise above the cacophony of tormented souls. "I will fight," yet, as I braced myself, I felt the air around me grow heavy with sorrow, the lost children's eyes piercing through the gloom, demanding my attention. Each face became a reminder of lives unlived, echoes of laughter forever silenced. They surrounded me like wraiths, longing for release, for someone to acknowledge their existence. My heart twisted painfully at their plight, and then came a whisper, soft yet insistent, "Help us." I felt a surge of conflicting emotions, my resolve wavered. The pain of knowing I couldn't save them all bound me like chains, yet within that agony lay an almost unbearable love for my own children. Emma needed me. No matter the darkness, no matter the toll, my love for her's our guiding light. "I promise you'll try," I vowed. But a dark voice deep within taunted me as if every moment spent clinging to my resolve was simultaneously a moment lost to the darkness. It was then that a flicker of warmth ignited in my heart, and I remembered the stories Emma used to tell before the shadows arrived, tales of bravery, kindness, and triumph over adversity. My children had always found ways to illuminate the bleakest corners of our world. Could I follow that path? Could love be a weapon against despair? Gathering every ounce of strength, I pressed my palms against the jagged edges of the fissure, feeling the energy of my sorrow blending with fragments of their stories, their joys entwined with my own. "You are not forgotten," I cried, lifting my head defiantly. "Your stories matter. I will carry you with me, even in this darkness." As my declaration tore through the stillness, the shadows hesitated, caught off guard by a surge of compassion that rippled from my heart. Hope began to weave through the darkness. Glittering light emerged, warm and inviting, like the first rays of dawn breaking through the night. I reached into that light, pulling through memories of laughter and love, filling the air with colors that pushed back against suffocating despair. The lost children began to shimmer, their expressions softening with each recollection that touched them. In that moment, I felt something shift. They were more than shadows. They were echoes of love longing to be remembered, to be acknowledged. I bent down lower, my voice trembling with sincerity. "I see you. I hear you. Let us be whole together." Bright light burst forth, igniting the darkest corners where the shadows had huddled in their despair. For every child lost, I could feel their pain morphing into possibility, their stories intertwining with my own as if the very fabric of our experiences was healing like threads in a quilt. But even amidst this newfound hope, the ground beneath me continued to splinter, threatening to swallow us both. I cast one last glance toward the chasm, knowing Emma was out there, somehow tied to everything that was unfolding. The swirling darkness fought back against the light, an unyielding force, battering against my resolve, and just as I was about to collapse under the weight of inevitability, a small hand gripped mine, squeezing fiercely. It was Lila, her eyes wide yet shining with determination. "Mommy, don't give up," she urged, her spirit brightening the gloom. "We can bring her back." With a nod, I grasped both her hand and Rory's, feeling their warmth seep into my soul, fortifying me against the tide threatening to pull us under. "Hold on tight," I shouted, pulling them closer as the darkness shrieked, clawing at the light we were forging together. As we moved forward, a vision crystallized in my mind: Emma, shining like a beacon amidst the shadows, her laughter echoing in the silence, waiting for us to find her. With each determined step, I felt a newfound strength surge through me. "Emma, we're coming," I called, my voice lifting above the chaos, a balm against the pain surrounding us. Yet, as we pressed further, I felt a shroud of cold settle into my bones. A haunting truth coiled around my heart. What if the hope we ignited was still not enough? What if I was led to make the ultimate sacrifice, forced to face the shadows alone to ensure their safety? The uncertainty clawed at my throat, trying to silence the clarity I had just found. Suddenly, a blinding light engulfed us, pulsating with energy we had summoned. It surged through the fissure, illuminating the darkness for a brief moment before shattering into a myriad of brilliant fragments, sparks of our collective love echoing with promise. But as quickly as it illuminated the void, a grotesque, terrible figure formed within the shimmering backdrop. It loomed larger than life, a harbinger of despair with hollow eyes that gleamed with malice. The shadows recoiled, and I felt the weight of hopelessness flood back like a dark tide. "Your love is a weakness," it snarled, its voice a chilliness laced with everything that could crush our hearts. "Everyone you love is forfeit. You cannot save them all, and you will never defeat me." My heart pounded as I glanced between Lila and Rory, their small faces etched with fear. The light began to fade. In that moment of despair, it became clear the darkness was not merely a force, it was an embodiment of every doubt I held deep within. It was the truth of everything I feared. "Remember who you are," I shouted fiercely, pulling back even further into my heart, determined to shield my children from the malevolence that threatened to consume us. The risk was palpable, but I realized I had to balance love with the courage to confront the darkness head-on. The revelation ignited within me a flicker of rebellion against the despair tugging at my heart. In the flash of that defiance, I vowed to protect my children, no matter the cost. But as I stood ready to face the chilling embodiment of my fears, I couldn't shake the feeling that, unbeknownst to me, the very ground beneath me was making a choice, one that threatened to tear us apart forever. Then, as the shadows churned with malignant laughter, the ground shifted once more, the rift widening ominously, its depth beckoning with an all-consuming emptiness. I felt a hand slip from mine, my heart plummeting as I realized it was Lila who had let go, her small frame moving dangerously close to the edge. "Lila!" I screamed, anguish slicing through me, but it was too late. Before I could reach out, her other hand gestured towards the dark chasm, a beacon of desperate hope painted with madness. "Mommy! I have to help Emma." My heart halted in that lingering moment, weighed down by the stakes unfurling in front of us. The darkness bristled with anticipation as I stood upon the razor's edge of despair, caught between protecting the two children I loved most and the raging sea of shadows ready to consume us. This had become a game of choices, and while all I could do was scream her name, the silence looming stretched infinitely before us, foreboding and heavy with uncertainty. And as Lila stepped backward, heedless of the danger, I realized I had to face the truth, and all it encompassed: the certainty that love doesn't always mean victory. The shadows cackled, the abyss beckoned, and I stood at the crossroads of love and sacrifice, my heart racing toward a precipice I had never known. I stood at the edge of the abyss, the screams of my daughter Emma reverberating in my ears as Lila's desperate cry sliced through my consciousness like a knife. "Mommy! I have to help Emma." I felt my heart stop as I watched her move closer to the precipice, bathed in the haunting glow of darkness and light, straddling an impossible divide. "Lila, no!" I shrieked, urgency flooding my voice as I lunged towards her, instinctively reaching out. But the rift grew wider, the ground trembling beneath us as if it were alive, shaking with the forces of despair and hope clashing violently against each other. "Come back," I pleaded, a surge of panic pricking my skin, trying to bridge the widening chasm that seemed manifestly determined to tear us apart. Lila's face was a mist of determination edged with fear, reflecting the unyielding resolve of a child who felt the pull of responsibility toward another, even in the face of our own fragility. "Trust me." Her voice rang resolutely, that sameness echoing Emma's cries for help, as if the very heartbeat of love tied all of us together even in our desperate attempts at escape. I could feel the shadows creeping closer, weaving tendrils of despair, sucking the warmth out of the air like an insatiable void, and yet I felt that insistent flicker of hope sparking within me again. This was the very essence of love. It did not merely exist to bind us, it was also a force that could tear down barriers. Desperation clawed at my throat, choking back my sorrow. Lila, please, I can't lose you. Each word spilled from my trembling lips, but deep within me, an unshakable truth began to forge itself against the bombardment of rushing sounds that threatened to drown out the world. Emma was even now lost in the maelstrom of screams, and I knew I had to act, to not just protect them, but to bring us all closer instead of letting shadows separate us. This was no longer just about choosing to save one child over another, it was about acknowledging that our choices resonate like rippling water across the surface of our lives. Lila, my voice softened to a whisper amidst the chaos, you can help us all. But we must do it together. I need you to trust me one more time. Tears streamed down her face as she wavered, already teetering on the brink of their dark promises. I want to help Emma. But if I don't help these kids, her desperate heart grappled with the gravity of understanding, and I reached out just a fraction further, the danger of this precipice looming larger beneath our trembling feet. You can save them, Lila. You can save them all. But first, I need you to hold on to me. I took a step forward, slipping my hand into hers, firm yet gentle, as together we turned our focus toward the haunting shadows gathering like storm clouds darkening the air we breathe, and then, just like that, something inside me clicked into place, as if fate had bent all its will toward acceptance and urgency. It was true that sacrifice often required a price, but the willingness to fight for love was something boundless. I could feel Lila's resolve solidifying, a spark igniting across the unseen bond swirling around us, fighting against the shadows that sought to consume our very essence. Hold on tight, I instructed, my voice now filled with that insistent resolve illuminated by hope and the sheer strength of love rippling through the space. We will push back against the darkness together. Suddenly things became clearer. I began to gather fragments of memories so intertwined with joy that they burst forth from me, echoing like a song that transcended time. The laughter of children permeating the air melded with the brightest moments in our lives, those precious shards of memory piecing together the very essence of our strength against despair. Emma, I whispered, and the shadows recoiled, their malevolence turning brittle at the sound of her name. We are coming for you. As we braced against the darkness, I felt a power flow through us, a tangible force laced with love and memory. With each moment, Lila pulled away from the precipice, and I could see the determination ignite in her eyes, reflected in Rory's expression beside her. We were defying the very darkness that sought to separate us, standing as one together in a way that traversed even the bleakest of paths. The shadows thickened around us, trying to siphon away our resolve, but we stood against its straw, spurred by the trembling warmth of unity. We're stronger together, I proclaimed, thoughts brimming with the memories of laughter, the joy of unconditional love infusing each word I uttered. Emma needs us all. And just as the darkness shifted to consume us, something extraordinary happened. A soft radiance began to swell from the depths of my heart, igniting the tapestry of our memories woven like a gossamer delight. It shimmered outward, illuminating the darkness as if it was 1,000 fireflies flickering into existence, scattering the shadows that coiled around us. Mommy. Emma's voice rang clearer now, amplified by the memories' eternal bonds binding our hearts. You have to save us. You have to help them. Sensing the gravity of her plea, I summoned every ounce of strength and let that radiant light flow. We can do this, I cried out, feeling the energy pulsate as it wrapped itself around Lila, Rory, and me. We stood shoulder to shoulder, a shimmering array of love carving a bridge through the shadows. With our hands clasped, memory sparked and ignited a trail through the churning darkness, propelling us onward toward Emma. We're coming for you, Emma. I shouted again, heart racing with each step toward the rift, each heartbeat thrummed not just with urgency but also with the consummate love that held us tethered even through this turmoil. And as we breached the mouth of darkness, A blinding light erupted from within us, a confluent dance of souls where love interwove together, lifting and twining into a firmament, illuminating every child hidden in the dark, revealing lost cries of love amidst the chaos that had gripped them. The very air around us shifted, a warmth buoyed us, each tether linking our hearts as we ventured forward. Then it struck like thunder, the moment where shadows clashed against love, darkness met radiance, as my beloved Emma revealed herself amidst the billowing shadows. We extended our hands, moving through the chaotic flares of darkness and heartache as her laughter chimed against the storm, beckoning us closer. "I'm here, sweetheart." I reached out for her, feeling those invisible threads of love tug at the fabric of my soul as I felt Lila and Rory's hands tighten around mine, and just as I grasped Emma's little hand, light erupted, cascading in a wave so beautiful it eclipsed every dark thought and haunting echo that had lingered. There was an effulgent beauty woven into that momentous closeness, intimacy that surged through our collective hearts. "Mommy!" she cried, her eyes gleaming with recognition and power, illuminating our love forever entwined within those precious bonds. "You did it. You brought me back." In that instant, the shadows receded, unraveling like a tapestry, falling away as we all surged forward. The weight of everything we fought for, the sacrifice, the love, and the bonds we forged became the immeasurable power that drove the darkness away. And in that flash of devastating clarity, I realized it wasn't just about saving one child or another, it was about choosing to believe in the power of love. As Emma collapsed into my arms, her laughter echoing through the air, I knew we had triumphed together. We had battled despair, drawn forth resilience from grief, and while every heart carries its burdens, it was the connections, the unbreakable bonds that would light our path moving forward. And the radiant glow that ensconced us like a warm embrace, I held my children close. "Love will always find a way," I whispered, knowing that no dark was ever truly impenetrable when we embraced hope, with our hearts forever intertwined, prepared to face whatever life had in store together. And as the final remnants of shadows dissolved, I turned my gaze to the horizon, the dawn of a new beginning stretching. For the testament to the love we fought for, and the echoes of every child saved, reconciling the fraught chorus of our shared journey. In the heart of that moment, the embodiment of a life rediscovered, I took a breath, embracing the weight of every cherished memory before us, and whispered into the sunlit air, "Together, we are whole." And with that indelible truth, I held them tightly to me, feeling the warmth blossom inside their love that could only grow stronger from here on out, an ever-rippling promise that would transcend into eternity.